Welcome to another episode of the Assemble Performance Podcast. Today, there's a topic that I'm very passionate about. I talk to people a lot about it in the DMs and face-to-face, and I wanted to make a podcast on it because I know you guys can definitely get value from this. And again, it's something I'm super passionate about. And it's how hybrid training can help you live a fuller life, how you can say yes more often, build that confidence, capability, and live that life without limits. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of training if it makes us miserable, if it doesn't add to our lives? I think training should always make you a more confident, capable human that can live a life that you're proud of and happy with. And that's really reflected in my company name and in the name of the podcast, Assemble Performance. I remember when I came up with this name, I was sitting in a Starbucks on a Saturday morning. I had some athletes lined up that wanted to work with me. I had basically everything in place for my business except for the name that needed to go on the LLC, on the website, things like that. And I went to a coffee shop, Starbucks, down the road from my house at the time. I got a pen and paper and a coffee, and I sat down and journaled. What's important to me? Why do I want to start this company? Why have I coached people unofficially for so long up to this point? What am I passionate about when it comes to health and fitness? And basically, why is this what I want to do? What are my values? I came up with a lot of things, but the overall goal is that I wanted to make people's lives better in the way that my life had been made better and in the way that I've been able to help other people make their lives better. Training is one thing. It's one gateway to this. It's one thing that makes your life better. But again, it's a gateway, and there are so many things that make your life better. And I think a lot of coaches, a lot of coaching companies, they miss that because they're so focused on the training and the nutrition. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to get out of my scope of practice. Training and nutrition is my profession. It's my scope of practice. I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or a dietitian. But I, as a coach and as the CEO of the company, have to understand everything that goes into making you the best, most capable human possible. So I chose Assemble Performance because peak performance really is an assembly of multiple different things, not just your training and nutrition, but your mindset, your community, your stress, your fulfillment with life. There are so many different things that go into making you the most performant human possible in your physical endeavors, but also just in your life. Because I'm a firm believer that just because something's optimal on paper, say a training and nutrition program, if it makes you absolutely hate your life and the end goal isn't something you're willing to sacrifice that for, then you shouldn't be doing it. The only time you should be willing to not enjoy the moment because of a goal in the future is if that goal in the future is going to bring you more satisfaction than not doing it. For example, running a race is very fun, and the training to run that race is also very fun, but some days you don't want to do it. Some days you don't want to get up and train, but you know that the outcome of that training is something that's going to add value to your life, more value to your life than it would if you didn't do it. So my goal as a coach, as somebody who trains people, who works with people, is to make sure that not only the training is making their life better, but that I understand everything else in their life that's going on to make their life better. So again, what's the point of training if it doesn't unlock the life you actually want to live? In this episode, I'm going to break down how to build a body that gives you freedom, the kind of confidence that lets you say yes to anything and everything life throws at you. So when you think of training, you probably don't equate that with the term full life. So what do I mean when I say live a full life through training? I want to read to you some training feedback I received from one of my athletes. His name's Tanner. I had him on the podcast last year. He started with me to run a marathon, crushed the marathon, but then since then we've stuck together. We've trained for multiple different goals and gone through some life changes as well. And I just wanted to read to you some feedback he gave me because it really encapsulates this whole topic for me of how training can help you live a full life. So I'm just going to quote from his feedback here. Staying focused on training and nutrition on a daily basis empowers me to live an intentional life, the life I want to live. It shows me that I can accomplish daunting goals as long as I stay consistent and make a little progress each day. It reminds me that I can take on challenges, do hard things, and push myself to do more than I previously thought possible. In this way, it really shifts my perspective on life in a positive, uplifting direction. Seeing the physical results of training has been encouraging to me. This has easily been the longest period of consistent training and prioritizing physical fitness in my life, and I can see the results in the gym, on the road, and in the mirror. However, the biggest win to me has been a refocus on my values. Like how I mentioned previously, that consistent training has empowered me to live a more fulfilling and intentional life. Since getting out of college, I did feel a little lost. I knew I was in a job and on a career path that I did not want long term, but I was settling for something because that was just okay, and passively waiting for something better to come along. One thing that coaching has re-clarified to me is that I don't just want to be comfortable or okay. I want to move forward. I want to do the hard things because the process and the challenge itself is inherently rewarding to me. I never want to live in regret of not taking a chance, and coaching has absolutely reminded me that I am free to take on any challenge. The only barriers I have are the ones that I impose on myself, and that means that ultimately I am the key to surpassing those barriers. Now, honestly, I could just end the podcast there. Mic drop. That, when I read that, I teared up because that is why I coach. This is the embodiment of why I coach. And I feel a little emotional in the moment.
Right.
The ability to impact somebody's life like this through something like training and coaching feedback and the discussions that him and I have on a weekly basis, it's why I am so passionate about this and why I do what I do. And that's what I want this podcast episode to be about, is how do we do this? How do you achieve this as somebody who maybe heard that and said, wow, like that's what I want to do, but I don't feel that way. I feel like training's a little empty. I feel like it doesn't have that impact on my life. So I share that with you to give you some perspective on what the relationship I have with my athletes looks like and how powerful that can be. At the end of the day, training and nutrition is the gateway that him and I use to have this coaching relationship and to have these discussions around, is training impacting your life in the way you want it to? Are you feeling the most fulfilled? He brought up to me, I'm thinking about looking at another job, and I was curious about what that job was. I asked him about it. We had that discussion. We talked about how training fit into his life values and really went deep. And so, again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. I'm not a psychologist. But this is the power of a coach who really cares, and a coach who has your best interests in mind and understands that you're a human. You're a holistic human with a lot of different things that make you human, a lot of different parts to your identity, and a lot of different things that make you you. And each person is different. Each person has slightly different things or very different things that they love, that light them up, that excite them. And the ability to connect with you on that level is what I love about coaching. So anyways, let's get into the podcast. Like I said, there's many areas of health, and they all come together to create a whole human. And if you do it right, training will enhance all other areas of your life. And if you focus on all other areas of your life in the right way, they'll also enhance your training. That synergistic effect, it's real. And so training to live a full life has the added benefit of also being how you should train to live as long and healthy as possible too. Stress management, life fulfillment, and physical health all go hand in hand for a long, healthy, fulfilling life. So when it comes to training to live that full life, there's really one huge mistake I see, and it's that people want to have everything figured out before they start. People say, all right, this is important. I agree with this. I resonate with this. So then they sit down with a pen and paper and they say, I need to figure this out, right? To go back to my business example, when I was starting the podcast, I had everything else done except for the name and kind of the really important things, which is the values and why I'm doing this. I was forced to figure that out because I needed to do it. My lawyer that was setting up my company for me needed it the next day. If I didn't take action despite not knowing, I would never have been forced to sit down with myself like that and get the pen to paper and think about it. So my recommendation is that you can only make the meaningful life changes you need through action. But for a more training perspective, let's get into the training perspective really. Just because something's going to add to every area of your life doesn't mean it's going to feel good in the moment or that it will always add to every area. In fact, when you're doing something new, when you're enacting a change, it's probably going to feel like it's taken away from everything else for a while. And this is because our brains are wired to protect us from our biology, and change to our brains equals danger. So when our brains subconsciously sense danger, they're going to try to make up anything they can to stop us from changing. And they'll really justify anything like, oh, I shouldn't go run today. I know I said I wanted to, but like my knee hurts a little bit and I have these other things. My family needs me and I should be present for them because I don't want to regret that in the future. And it'll make up all these little things that it was only, say, a 30-minute run. You're not going to miss that much time with your family. Your knee's probably going to be fine. So in the moment, it might not feel like you're living in line with what you want to do with life. But this is why it's important for you to be committed to figuring this out along the way. So the cure for this is that you need to take action every day and adapt along the way. You don't quit, you adapt. So Tanner, we wanted to run the marathon, and we did that. And then that was a huge win and confidence builder for him. And then we switched to another strength goal, another endurance goal, and another area of life. And throughout that process of taking action, he was learning more about himself, about what he valued. And he took the time to reflect and figure these things out while taking action. He didn't decide, well, hey, I think my life is not how I want it to be. I need to take a step back from training and from everything else that's taking my time. And I need to figure out what I want to do with life. You can't figure things out from a place of inaction. And he didn't do that. He continued to take action. We continued to have these discussions and continued to train. He went to work. He still pushed himself in all of those different areas. And it was through that he decided that I'm not in a career field I want to be in. I need to take action to move. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm going to get my resume together. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to start looking at jobs and just take some action in the direction I want to go. So you can't make the best decision for yourself from the sidelines. You have to take action first before you can make the best and most informed decision. Another example from my life recently right now, I've always wanted to get my master's in exercise science or exercise physiology. And I've talked about it for a couple of years, probably 3 years now, 2 or 3 years now. 2 years now it would be. And I've talked about it, man, I have to take a few prerequisites because my undergrad is in cybersecurity. It's not in exercise physiology or biomechanics or anything that would have given me those prerequisites. So I have to take a few prerequisite classes to apply. Do I really want to get my master's? Is that going to make me better able to serve my clients and the world? Or is it going to be time that I could have spent developing something else that's going to make me a better coach? These are the questions I ask. And I finally got tired of asking myself those questions and decided I just need to take action and figure it out. So I signed up for some prerequisite classes at the community college here, and I've been taking those. I'm going to a lab every Monday and Wednesday night and taking an asynchronous class. And I'm taking action. And now I'm able to make a decision while I'm in class, while I'm learning things, versus sitting on the sidelines for 2 years. I sat on the sidelines and didn't make any meaningful progress towards that decision. I just went in circles. But now that I'm taking action, I'm starting to realize certain things about that decision and figure out where that fits within my values and what I want out of my professional experience and how I can best serve clients. So you need to take action before you can make the best decision. You cannot have it all figured out before you start because you'll never have it all figured out. You just need to get started, and that's how you're going to make the best decision. So now, how do we train in a way that's going to add to our lives? How do you train in a way that adds to your life? These are some practical things you can take away and do for training. So first, this idea of general physical preparation. If you haven't heard of it, it's a way of thinking about training. There's a general physical preparation phase and a specific physical preparation phase. This GPP, general physical preparation phase, is when you're just training to do anything you want to do. So you're improving your athletic deficiencies. You're just training to be a holistic, well-rounded human. And then the specific physical preparation is where you taper in or peak in for your race or event or meet or whatever it is. So I think this GPP style of training is the best way to add as much to your life as possible, because it's going to make sure you're going to be ready for anything you want to do. It's going to make you as healthy as possible. And it's going to keep you in this state of, if I decide I want to do something like go on a bike ride around my city, which I had an athlete do, you can kind of do that last minute because you're generally physically ready for anything. And so you just need to spend a few weeks dialing in your training to the specific event. So this is going to let you just make sure you're training in a way that's going to make you as fulfilled as possible and allow you to jump into any event that you want to do, whether a friend asks you to do something or something else. I'm also going to recommend taking time to reflect on all of your training and on everything. So training can be a great metaphor for life and a great way to learn life lessons if you take the time to reflect. For some examples, struggling for a meaningful goal that you chose, learning to be consistent even when it's not perfect, learning to do the hard thing, showing up every day even when you don't feel like it, and even when nothing feels like it's working, learning to get back up after failing and learning from failure, learning to celebrate wins no matter how small, and seeing progress over time versus just in the moment. These are all things you have to do if you're going to train for a long time. You have to learn these lessons eventually. And are these not just metaphors for everything else in life? These are important metaphors for everything in life. Just like we heard with Tanner before, how he decided that enough was enough with life and he wanted to get a new job that felt more purposeful, but he didn't really learn those lessons until he'd trained for a while beforehand. Because before we started training together, he decided he was just going to stick with his job because it was easy. But then the daily actions of meaningful struggle built that up in him in a way that it brought him to the point of saying, no, I have pushed myself in all these different areas, and now I'm going to push myself here too, because this is not how I want my life to look like. I want it to look differently. So these lessons, you learn them through training, but they're metaphors for life in general. And training is such a great way to learn these lessons. You just have to take the time to reflect on them. Next, I want to talk about this idea of a yes threshold. So how fit do you need to be? This is my question for you. How fit do you need to be to live a full life? This is going to be very individual, and it's going to depend on what you want to do. Now, the second question is, what would be possible in your life that isn't now if your default was yes? If you were fit enough to say yes to anything that popped in your head or came your way, an event you want to do, a friend that wants to go do something, anything you want to do. Think about it for a second. What would be possible in your life that's not possible now if your default answer was yes? Now, you're not going to get there overnight, but you can see progress towards that version of you every single day by showing up consistently. I want to give you one last question to think about before we go into the next topic, which is, where in your life are you saying no because you lack confidence, energy, or physical readiness? And what if that changed? What if you did have the confidence, the energy, and the physical readiness? What would you be able to say yes to that you're saying no to now? That is the yes threshold. That is the importance of training. So now I also want to talk about this idea of the energy ripple effect, is what I like to call it. This gets a little more woo-woo, it's sciencey, but it's also a little woo-woo, so stick with me. As somebody who is very science-driven, stick with me. This is something I'm also very passionate about. When you think about our human bodies, our brains have electrical impulses. Our muscles, the gradients, electrical impulses, energy is created. We have electricity going through our bodies all the time. Now, I want you to think about that. And then think about, have you ever heard someone talk about somebody else's energy? Their energy just felt off. Now, think about our voice. Our voice is literally sound waves produced by our vocal cords vibrating in the air, just like a guitar string would vibrate in the air. When you listen to a sad song, without words, so think about listening to a sad piano song that doesn't have words. You feel sad because of the music. There's no words. You feel sad because of the sound, the vibrations. Now think about a happy piano song. You've probably got one in mind. Think about it playing. You start to feel happy because of the piano. The hammer on the piano is striking the string, which is vibrating in the air and causing these sound waves that make you feel happy. These songs have no words, but you feel a very, very real emotion. You can't say this emotion isn't real. It is real. Now think about that. Those real emotions were caused by sound waves in the air, vibrations. Just like our vocal cords make vibrations. You listening to me is because the air is passing by my vocal cords. Think about that and then ask yourself, have you ever heard of someone's vibe? Their vibe was just off, or their vibe felt great. The hippie on the beach, their vibes, man. Think about somebody's vibes and someone's energy. That language is important, even though it's kind of an abstract concept, because it's literally explaining physical events that happen in our bodies. Sound waves from our vocal cords, electricity moving through us. These things cause real emotion in us. Now, to bring this back to fitness, when you set a fitness goal, you start on a journey of becoming the person you need to become to accomplish that goal. If you were already the person that you needed to be to accomplish that goal, you could accomplish it already. There are physical changes in your muscles that need to happen in your body for you to have the fitness to do that. But every time you train for something, you're also rewiring your brain. Our brains are plastic. There's this idea called neuroplasticity. Neurons that fire together, wire together is a saying. Every time you go for that run or that workout when you don't feel like it, you're changing your body, but you're also rewiring your brain. And you're becoming the person you need to become to accomplish that goal. I did a 50K earlier this year during the busiest period of my life. And I did it because I wanted to get better at time management and at managing my time and stress. I didn't have the skills when I started, but I knew that to do this effectively, to actually do this 50K and not want to pull my hair out or just lay in a corner, I'm going to be forced to develop new skills of time management, of efficiency, of stress management that I don't have right now. And I did. I set out on that goal with that intention. Doing this is going to make me the person I need to be to do the goal, which is the version of myself that has better time management skills, is more efficient, can get more value and enjoyment out of things with less time. When you set a fitness goal, you start on a journey of becoming the person you need to be to accomplish that goal. This has a ripple effect throughout your entire life. How you carry yourself, how you see the world, how you interact with others, what type of vibrations and energy you give off on others when you're around them. You feel more confident, you stand a little taller, you're more sure of yourself. These are the things that training can do for us that most people don't think about. A statistic I want to give you, these are rough numbers, they're not exact, but they're in the ballpark from the research. Our brains receive around 11 million bits of information every single second from our bodies. It's things we see, things we hear, things we feel, balance, all these different things come into our brains, 11 million bits every single second. But our bodies only process about 50 bits per second. You're literally filtering out 10.5 million bits of information per second just to go about your day. Our brains are trying to make us the most efficient possible, keep us alive, and so they have to filter out all of this information. Think about when you first started driving, for an example of this. When you first learned how to drive, it seemed like there was so much information to take in and do things with. But now that you've been driving for a while, you can pretty much zone out and drive. It's really easy. It's because your brain learned, what do I need to take in and what can I filter out? Our brains are literally filtering machines. And this is the science behind, the neuroscience behind the phrase, you see what you look for. Your brain filters things out that it doesn't think are important. You see what you look for in life. Your friend gets a new car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. And you think, what a coincidence, a glitch in the matrix. That car has been there the whole time. You just never saw it because you weren't focused on that car. Your brain was filtering it out the whole time. So I want you to think about this. How could the energy shift from striving and working for a meaningful goal change the way you see the world? What opportunities would you see that you wouldn't have before? Because all of a sudden your brain is now thinking about challenge, struggle, overcoming. I am capable. I am strong enough to do this. Just because it's hard now doesn't mean it's going to be hard forever. All these things you learn in training, they're going to be in the rest of your life. And you're literally going to see things in the world that you didn't see before that existed right in front of your face and you didn't see them. And then you're going to be able to take action on those things. This new job that Tanner got, it had probably been there for a long time, but he didn't see it. He didn't see that opportunity, and then he didn't go after it because he didn't even know it existed. Training really, really has a ripple effect throughout your life if you take time to learn these lessons, reflect, and stick with it for the long term. And the last thing I want to share with you about training to live a full life is the identity shifts. So building on the concept we just talked about is the shift in your identity that happens and how you move through the world. Again, I mentioned if you are already the person who could achieve your goals, you would have completed them already. Like I said, that process of working and training for a goal is as much about making your body ready as it is your brain. I already spoke about the neuroplasticity. I've spoke about it rewiring your brain and what you see in the world. It also rewires how you see yourself and your identity. All of a sudden, I used to think, for example, say you used to think, I could never run. I don't like running. I just sit on the couch. I watch TV. I hang out, do whatever. How does that make you feel about yourself, right? And then say, no, I'm going to go run a 5K. I'm going to commit to going to run a 5K. I'm going to get in the gym and train a little bit. I'm going to hire a coach because I care about this. You hire a coach like myself or somebody else who knows all the different things that training impacts and the ways it makes you a better human and the other things that go into your life. So you get high quality training and nutrition, but you also get high quality coaching from somebody who can guide you through this process. Your brain rewires over time and you accomplish the 5K. You've changed into the person who can accomplish a 5K. Now, what do you say about yourself? You say, I'm a runner. And that evokes a different emotion in you of, I can do hard things. I still like to sit on the couch and watch TV, but I can also get up and go do a run because I value it. And I'm the type of person that does that. What does that say about you as a person at work? What is your identity now at work? What is your identity now with your family? You're a person who can do hard things that you know are important, even when you don't want to do them. That is the work of becoming, and that is power. Now, if you're fired up after listening to this podcast, I know I am. I'm very passionate about this. I encourage you to take some form of action today, or if it's 11 p.m. at night, tomorrow, first thing. But really today, even if it's 11 p.m. at night, you can take action today, and I'll tell you what. If it's 11:59, you can still take action. Let me explain to you why. This is a quote from a public speaker that I have. His public speaking course is really good, but the quote is, inspiration comes from knowledge, but satisfaction comes from taking action. You consume so much knowledge every day, Instagram Reels, podcasts, but that doesn't change your life. If information changed our lives, if information made us better, so much of the world would be improved. But it's not the information alone. It's taking action from that information that makes you live a better life, improves your life. And that is the difference between success and not having success. So it's not just the information you take in, it's what you do with it that matters. Don't let this podcast, you've been here for over 30 minutes at this point. Don't let this 30 minutes of your life that you're literally never going to get back. You chose to be here for 30 minutes. You chose to listen to this because you resonate with this. It's important to you. And if you don't agree with either of those, you're literally here. Something subconsciously said you want more. And this was the way that you thought you could do it. You listen to this podcast. Don't let this podcast become another piece of knowledge that gets lost amongst all of the educational reels you saved and never looked at again. Or the podcast you listened to 6 months ago and said, this is going to change my life. And then you listen to the next podcast the next day on your commute, and then you forgot all about it until I just mentioned it. Even if you don't know what it is you want to do or where you want to go, taking a small action today will start to rewire your brain as the type of person who takes action instead of sitting on the sidelines. And that's going to snowball and compound. The next piece of information you get that's useful, now I'm the person who takes action, not just the person who listens to this, gets inspired, and moves on to something else. So what small action can you take today that will move you closer to who you want to be? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Something popped in your head right there. I know it did. The first thing that popped in your head, that's what you need to do. Even if it's not perfect, even if you feel overwhelmed, you need to do that. And I'm telling you, if you're in a place where it's like 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m., or you're just whatever, you have kids and it's 6 p.m. and you know you're going to be with kids the rest of the day, the one action you can take, you put a reminder in your phone or calendar right now, or if you're driving, as soon as you can safely stop. I'm not going to be responsible for any accidents or anything. Put it in your phone so you don't forget. Put it on the calendar. That's the action. If you can't do it today for whatever reason, you put it in the calendar with reminders. Do not forget to put reminders. Put 3 reminders. Apple Calendar, Google Calendar. Put a reminder at the time of the event, a reminder an hour before the event, and a reminder the day before or 6 hours before the event. At least those 3, if not more, because you have to do this. You have to take action. If you don't take action now, what does that say about you in the future? I'm not asking you to pay for anything. I'm not asking you to sign up for anything at all. I'm just asking you to take action on that thing that popped in your head that said, when I asked you, what can you do today to move you closer to who you want to be? Knowledge is useless without action. Become a person of action. That is my challenge to you. And if you never listen to an episode of mine again, if you never, ever hear from me or talk to me or see me ever, but you become a person of action because of this podcast, my life purpose is fulfilled. I fucking mean that. I do not mean to swear that much on this podcast. I didn't even think about that, but I mean that. So that is why I do what I do. It's why I exist on this earth, is to help everybody else become better, just like people have helped me become better. So that's the podcast before I get emotional. If you're watching on the video, you may see me tearing up. This is so important to me. If you want to contact me, if you have any questions, if you want support, if you need anything, my contact info is in the description. Reach out to me. If I can't help you, I will send you to somebody who does, because I want you to get the help that you need and that you deserve. High quality help, not just somebody who wants to take your money and give you bullshit and not give you results. That's the podcast. I appreciate you guys listening, and I will see you guys in the next episode of the Assemble Performance Podcast.